Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father. As always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews. Happy Halloween out there to all you ghouls and goblins on the line with me right now. I have from George A. Romero's 1968 iconic film, Night of the Living Dead. She played Barbara, Miss Judith O'Dea. Judith, how you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing wonderfully, John. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure. Do you realize that you have terrified a lot of people in that movie? All you guys have.
It blows my mind that it's been so long.
And you know what, though? That's an iconic movie. To this day, it's still in the top, I would say, top 10 or top 5 of horror movies that are out there, you know?
Because when I hear someone say something like that, all I can think of is that over the years, the movie has stood for what it was when it was first made, but it's really the viewing audience that has turned the film into the cult classic. Whatever it was that we had, whatever chemistry, the people who watched have just carried it through the decades. They've examined it, they've looked at it inside and out. We never would be in this position of cult film if it really weren't for the people who watch and love it.
What got you into acting? Was it just a spurt thing, you know, of the film, or what actually done it?
Oh, no, I've wanted to be on the stage since I was a tiny kid. I can remember sitting on the stoop of our grandma's house, singing away. I hadn't even gotten into school then. It was just something that I knew I wanted to do. Pretending has always come easily for me. So I was lucky to be able to pursue what I love to do.
For Night of the Living Dead, was you approached to be in the film, or did you actually audition for the film?
I was out in Hollywood at the time. I wanted to break into film, but I got a call from Carl Hardman, who played Harry Cooper in the film. Carl and I had done a lot of work together back in Pittsburgh, making voiceovers. He had a wonderful recording studio called Hardman Associates. He and Marilyn Eastman would make all kinds of TV and radio voiceovers. I was lucky enough when I lived in Pittsburgh to do a lot of those. I got to know them very, very well. When I moved out to Hollywood, Carl, I guess, didn't forget me. When the movie opportunity came by, he, George, Russ, Jack Russo decided to make this. He thought maybe I'd be a good person to audition. He gave me a call out in Hollywood, said, "Do you want to come back home and audition for this film?" I hopped right on the plane, flew back home, auditioned, was lucky enough to get the role. That's how it all happened.
With it being a horror film, zombie film, did you think that it may taint your actual character, you know, your role as an actress? I mean, did you think that nobody else would maybe cast you of being, since you were in this film like this?
Well, it's interesting that you ask that, because in film, I have primarily been seen in that genre. Consequent films I've made over the years all have something to do with death, mayhem, horror of some kind. But on the stage, I've done so much work on the stage.
Yeah.
It's been a totally different story. I've done musical comedies like Sound of Music, My Fair Lady. I've done wonderful British comedies, all kinds. I've sort of run the gamut of shows on the stage. Consequently, I consider myself sort of lucky. I've had the wonderful scare in film, and yet I've had some wonderfully happy experiences on the stage.
You know, I think a lot of directors out there, they won't touch it because, you know, back in that time, because it was kind of like taboo. It's like, well, I don't know if I want to do this film or not, because it may reflect on me and my reputation as being a director and things like that. But I think George A. Romero has done a great job, you know, like with Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all of his dead movies. I think he's brought it all to a huge light, if I could say that, for horror movies and stuff. If it wasn't for him, plus the old cult classics like Bela Lugosi's Dracula, Werewolf, Frankenstein, they would be no movies like this to this caliber.
George has really made a difference in the world of horror. I don't think we ever planned that from the beginning. I don't think he ever thought that that's what was going to happen because of Night of the Living Dead. But he certainly has made an imprint on film history because of what he's done.
Exactly. I call him the godfather of horror.
That's a great description. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah. Your role, I know George likes to bring different types of zombies and different types of characters for the zombies, but as far as your role, what do you think the character Barbara brought to this film?
Brought to the film, I think Barbara's character was a lot deeper than people thought initially at the beginning. I think they felt, she was weak, she disappeared in the Capitonia. But as the years have gone by, more and more people have thought about Barbara's character, her portrayal in the film. I think what she's brought is we all react to desperation, horror, terrible things that can happen to us in different ways. Some of us pick up an Uzi and try to kill them all. There are others who, like Barbara, are more psychological. She just saw her brother killed. Therefore, she just sort of had to go inside. Mm-hmm. Her character was far more mental throughout the film than anybody thought at the beginning. You could see the progression of her trying in her mind to figure out what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Her line, what's happening, and that's pretty much Barbara. But the fact that she was able to come back to the surface and realize that she was a strong character, she would do whatever she could to help these people survive, these people she had lived with throughout that night. I think she brought a far wider range to the film than anybody initially thought.
Especially...
That's sort of a long-winded answer. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Especially, too, Judith, when Barbara is in the cemetery and they're I guess they're kind of adjacent in the cemetery, and they're having a picnic, her and Johnny Russell Striner, and they're sitting there, and all of a sudden, here comes a zombie. I mean, what are they supposed to expect out of nowhere, So...
Well, that's just it. A lot of people today in film, in horror films, the scream queens and whatnot, there's always that tremendous action. But when you stop to think of it, if you see something that's that terrifying, you don't always grab the nearest tree branch and kill them with it.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what's going on. And it was so unusual, and the attack so abrupt right at the beginning of the film. I think it really caught the audience by total surprise.
I agree.
Horror film back then, took a while to allow the horror to really come face to face with the audience. In our film, you met it face to face right at the beginning. And then the tension never let up until the end. That, to me, is one of the unique changes in horror filmmaking George brought to the screen in '68.
Especially, like you said, that's what he brought. And plus, I like that in a movie, especially a zombie or a horror movie. When as soon as the intro rolls and everything, boom, it's right into it. This waiting and like 10, 20, 30 minutes, even 40 minutes into a movie, it's wasted time. But the way George did this one with you guys in the graveyard scene, man, oh my God. You can't rationalize how quick you got to kill a zombie, and you guys are standing like, what is this? So with that...
We never even would have thought that this was a terrible thing, a sick thing, a dead thing.
Exactly.
You just wanted to get away from them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How many times did it take you guys to record or film the graveyard scene? Was it just one take or several?
We were there. We filmed the graveyard scene over a day. No, over several days.
Wow.
I can remember we used the wonderful car that, I think it was a Pontiac Le Mans. We used that over several days. And I know many of your listeners may have already heard this story, but that car belonged to Russ and Gary's mom, I believe. They told her, "Oh, we're just going to use it in the film, Mom. Nothing will happen to it." But, of course, we broke the windows in that car. They had to fix it. But the most interesting thing was that driving that car back home, I don't know who did it or what happened, but they were hit, or they hit something, denting the side of the car. We hadn't even finished the series of scenes using that car. Consequently, George had to figure out when we came back the next day, how am I going to film with this big dent in the car? How am I going to change the scene to accommodate the accident? To this day, when I watch my driving into that tree, it looks so real. It looks as if I have bent that side of the car going into that tree, but it had already been damaged. Just the way George filmed it. It was absolutely wonderful, I thought.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's one for me. That's pretty cool. What was your favorite part about the movie?
I was, at that age, I was 22, turning 23. I was thrilled to be in a feature film. Just first of all, being accepted in the film was a thrill. But to go through the entire process of making a film was a thrill to me because it was so different than working on the stage. To that point in time, I had done very short TV commercials, but not many. I was primarily a voiceover person, and I was a stage performer. Whether it was a musical review or whether it was a comedy or serious show on the stage, that whole stage process was so different than film. I think that's one of the most exciting things for me, was to be totally involved in a completely different process of entertainment.
What's your reaction to the zombies that George had in the film when you were actually there on set and watched them do what they did? What was your reaction to that?
I think Bill Heinzman, as we call him lovingly, Zombie Number One, he set the bar for me for zombies. He was so intense. He was relentless. To me, he played that role perfectly. You look at zombies today, so many of them pattern themselves on Bill's walk. I know that we have pretty fast-running zombies like in World War Z, but a lot of zombies, even to this day, have that bit of Bill. He was the beginning. I think what he did was great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the older style zombie dummy ones, as I call them. I like that style of zombie because, you know, they have these ones that they say that if they die, they're quick, and they have to be dead for a long time before they're slow like that. And to me, zombie goes back to Night of the Living Dead. That's a zombie to me. That nothing else. You know, that style that Bill did.
That's the way George saw it. That's the way he gave Bill the freedom to do it. And I don't think anybody thought ahead, thinking, well, are we establishing a character here? It was just what it was at the time. What it ended up being was, to me, a perfect rendering of what a dead person back to life would be.
For you, when you sit around and you think about being part of this iconic film, what does that mean to you to this day?
It makes me, well, first of all, it just sort of fills me with awe. It's hard to believe that I was a part of something that has had such longevity, that has touched so many people in different ways. That's an amazing thing to think about. And it's sort of humbling for me. I also feel how fortunate I was that somebody called on the phone and said, would you audition for this film? A matter of luck, a matter of coincidence, maybe it was destiny, whatever you believe in. Playing Barbara in this film has really changed my life. It has given me a legacy I never would have dreamed of, John.
And like I said today, it's one of the cult classics. I mean, you cannot talk about horror or zombie films without mentioning Night of the Living Dead. And if you don't, you're crazy. I just played out crazy.
Well, it's nice of you to say.
How was it working with George Romero?
Oh, it was great. George has such artistic talent. He's also a regular guy. Even to this day, you'd think with all the films under his belt, the famous folks he has worked with, he is a regular guy. He does what he loves. He does it well. He loves to share stories about it. And he gave us actors back then a freedom that in a lot of shows you're not given. Yeah. George would describe to us what he wanted to have happen in each scene we did. He'd give us whatever dialogue, whether it was in a script or whether it was to be an improvisation of dialogue. He'd just let us know. Then he would give us the freedom to do it in the best way we could. That was a wonderful way to work. He also taught you so much about the behind the scenes, what it takes to make a film, from sound to shadows that appear on the wall to building the storyline. It was wonderful. Looking back now on the film, it makes me remember what he taught me, just little things about production that I'll never, ever forget. Very great guy to work for.
What about conventions? What's it mean to you when all the fans come up and talk to you about Night of the Living Dead and things like that? Or how's that feel?
Oh, it feels great. I absolutely love it. I've talked to so many wonderful people, and to actually generations within the same family who have taken Night of the Living Dead in their hearts. I have a great time every convention. It's exhausting at times because so many people have so many wonderful stories. But I tell you what, you're at that table, you've got all the energy that people are sharing with you, and you cannot help but give it back. Great experience.
Any new things that you're working on these days?
Yeah, I just came back from L.A. having done a little independent film that should be out hopefully sometime this year, or maybe next. It's called Abandoned Dead. It's a psychological thriller in which I play a psychiatrist. I had a lot of fun doing it. And it's not the lead role that takes you from beginning to end, but it's a very pivotal role in the film. I also have a film that now is making the festival circuit. It's a fun thing called They Came from the Ether. It was filmed in black and white as if it were back in the 50s.
Cool.
It's just a crazy fun film, and my little role in it was a hoot for me to do. So that now, in fact, I think it even won Best Film of the Festival, a festival back in Ohio. But that's called They Came from the Ether. And hopefully I have another one coming up in December. We won't talk about that one since it hasn't happened.
Right.
But there are things on the fire.
That's good. I'm glad to still see you out there doing doing your thing for acting and stuff. That's awesome. My last question for you, and it pertains to Halloween, of course, because it's my Halloween special. And everybody, like I said, get your candy, scare the crap out of your friends and family. That's what it's all about. Not just for the month of October, but it's every day for us horror fans. Growing up for you, Judith, what was your favorite part of Halloween?
Oh, wow. When I went out on Halloween, people didn't destroy things, or at least my little group didn't. I think the worst thing we ever did was ring a doorbell and run away. But I think what I loved best, two things. The figuring out what costume I was going to wear. I wanted it to be so cool. Over the years, there have been several cool costumes that still remain my favorites. Then the other thing I loved was coming back with my bag of candy, being able to go through it and pick my favorites, which back then were Baby Ruth. I loved Baby Ruth. I think Milky Way was a favorite, and of course Snickers bars. I still love them to this day.
That's awesome. How can people stay in touch with you or keep up and see what you're doing these days?
Gee, I better update my my website to tell people what I'm doing, but you can certainly go on Facebook. I have a Facebook page you can check out. I have a website, www.odeacommunications.com. That gives you information about other careers that I've participated in, as well as my Night of the Living Dead performance. That's probably the best way to do it, those two avenues.
Judith, before I let you go, would you please do a promo for my show? It'd be an honor to have you to do it.
What would you like me to say? Hi there, this is Judith O'Dea from the original Night of the Living Dead. You are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We have some more awesome Halloween music coming up for you ghouls and goblins that are out there. Like I said, get off your rumps. Go get the candy. Scare people. Don't TP any houses or trees or whatever. Just be yourselves and be cool this Halloween season. And you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and Uber CD Radio. Thanks, Judith.
Thank you, John.
Now I hear them calling.